Hey, I haven't been on YouTube for a while, so welcome. This may be one that we just want to hang on to on our website just so that you can see that there is some new information. This came out January 17th, which was yesterday. Today's the 18th, where scientists reveal the mechanism that causes irritable bowel syndrome. You know, I guess I like the word. I don't like the fact that I believe I have it. I believe you have it. I believe that most of us have irritable bowel syndrome. I don't know. I haven't met too many people that can say their bowel function is perfectly normal all the time, every day. I have no bloating, no gas, no distension, no constipation, no diarrhea, nothing. It's all fine. And I don't have to take a blessed thing to do that. I also don't have any food intolerances. So if that person exists, I'd like to meet him. So this article comes out of Belgium, KU Leuven, Leuven. That's a town in Belgium, French-speaking town that does a lot of research. And this has been an ongoing project that is looking for the mechanism. What is it that starts irritable bowel syndrome? You're not born with it. At least most of us aren't. And during our younger years, our adolescent years, really, most of us don't have a whole lot of problems, maybe ever occasionally, but, and even through our teens and 20s, really not a big problem. We don't notice it until maybe we're in our 30s, we start after relying on a laxative, or I start having food intolerances and I have to make changes. For what it's worth, this article says there is a reason behind it. And I think all of us need to realize that there is such a thing as sensitivity to food. Okay? Believe it or not, you don't have a rock hard stomach. You don't have, an iron gut that just says I can eat anything and nothing bothers me. You may not notice that it's bothering you, but it might. KU Leuven researchers have identified a biological mechanism that explains why some people experience abdominal pain when they eat certain foods. We can sit there and say it's the food's fault. I'm eating jalapenos and I run into problems, or I'm going to McDonald's and I run into problems. Yeah, it's the food's fault, isn't it? The findings pave the way for more efficient treatment of irritable bowel syndrome and other food intolerances, and I'm going to go over some of those with you. The study was carried out in mice and humans, published in a journal called Nature. Up to 20% of the world's population suffers from irritable bowel syndrome. Nearly 80% of the world's population has it sometimes. Causes stomach pain, and a lot of times it's noted as severe discomfort after eating. This affects your quality of life. Now, what's been number one? I want you to think about this. I'll give you a few seconds, because there is a link with drinking too much coffee. Cheers. I still think there's an advantage to drinking coffee if you make it right, using alkaline water. So I'll just throw that out. But I want you to think, if you've gone shopping recently, what have you noticed in the food industry since there's so many people with IBS? Gluten-free, right? Yeah, gluten-free and other diets can provide some relief. But why? Well, you can say, well, gluten is difficult to digest. Yeah, that's a good catch-all. Patients most times aren't allergic to gluten. Some are. They have celiac disease, but that's a small percentage of the population. Very often, these patients are not taken seriously by physicians. And the lack of an allergic response is used as an argument that this is all in your mind, and that they don't have a problem with their gut physiology. You want to call it the bias of medicine, yeah. And I will tell you that 95% of the time, you may bear this out. If you went into your primary care with this kind of an issue, what's he gonna say? Let's refer you over to gastro. Yeah, they'll do something. You go see gastro, and you don't get to see the doctor. You see a nurse practitioner or whatever. And what's going on, dear? Well, I get bloating and gas. And did you try fiber? Well, are you eating enough fiber? Well, sort of, kind of. Well, maybe we ought to look at your diet. We don't know what to tell you, but maybe we ought to look at it. And then if all else fails, we're going to put you on Linzess, which is the one and only medication that we have now. Maybe that'll help. And in most cases, it doesn't. And it comes with a world of side effects, which is why it requires a prescription. So very often these patients aren't taken seriously. We understand that. And the lack of an allergic response is used as an argument that it's on your mind. So if we do send you to ENT or an allergist for a workup on food sensitivity, we find out you're really not allergic to anything. So really, it must be all in your mind. This was said by Professor Guy Boxdaston, a gastroenterologist, lead author of this research. With these new insights, we provide further evidence that we're dealing with a real disease. This article, published in Journal of Nature, is intended to go to gastroenterologists to say, quit it. Stop telling people it's all in their mind. His team's laboratory and clinical studies reveal a mechanism that connects certain foods with the activation of cells that release histamine, mast cells. There is a prescription medication called Singulair, which was used for allergies, for breathing, for sinus issues, and it's a mast cell stabilizer, so that these little balls that carry histamine around in the body as a self-defense mechanism are stabilized so that they don't break apart and release histamine. So when these mast cells that are in the gut are broken due to certain foods and they release their histamine, what do we experience? Pain and discomfort. Earlier work by Professor Boxdaston and his colleagues showed that by blocking histamine, an important component of the immune system, improves the condition with people with IBS. So could using a medication like Singulair actually help? It might. In a healthy intestine, the immune system does not react to food. So the first step was to find out what might cause this intolerance to break out. Since people with IBS often report that their symptoms began after a gastrointestinal infection, such as food poisoning, the researchers started with the idea that an infection, while a particular food is present in the gut, might sensitize the immune system to that food. It's a little bit of a stretch, but okay, we'll buy that so far. They infected mice with a stomach bug. That's really scientific. Same time fed them ovalbumin, a protein found in egg white. It's commonly used in experiments as a model food antigen. And the antigen is a molecule that provokes an immune response. Hear what they said. In the test, the most common food antigen was egg whites. But what do we tell people with IBS? Give up the yolk. Eat the egg whites. It's healthier, right? But they're finding out that this ovalbumin is actually one of the things that sensitizes us. The results were affirmative. The ovalbumin on its own provoked mast cell activation, histamine release, and digestive intolerance with increased abdominal pain. This was not the case in mice that had not been infected with a bug and then received the ovalbumin. The researchers were then able to unpick, that's a scientific word, a series of events in the immune system that was connected to the ingestion of ovalbumin to activate the mast cells. Significantly, this immune response only occurred in the part of the intestine infected by this disruptive bacteria. It did not produce more generalized symptoms of a food allergy. So it was that particular area, which is why, again, I'm going to go back to the fact that when you do stool analysis, you can actually highlight those areas where the problem is. And you can make sure that you have enough good bacteria to counterbalance any bad that might be there. Professor Boxdaston speculates that this points to a spectrum of food-related immune diseases. At one end of the spectrum, the immune response to a food antigen is very local, as in IBS. On the other end of the spectrum, the food allergy comprising a generalized condition of severe mast cell activation has an impact on breathing, blood pressure, and so on. The researchers went on to see if people with IBS reacted the same way. when food antigens associated with IBS, and here's their list: gluten, wheat, soy, and cow milk, were injected into the intestinal wall of 12 IBS patients, they produced localized immune reactions similar to that seen in the mice. No reactions were seen in healthy volunteers. So gluten, wheat, soy, and cow's milk. I know dairy farmers hate to hear that, as do you if you have IBS. The relatively small number of people involved means this finding needs further confirmation, but it appears significant when considered alongside the earlier clinical trials showing improvement during treatment of IBS patients with antihistaminics. This is further proof that the mechanism we have unraveled has clinical relevance. A larger clinical trial of antihistamine treatment is currently underway. But knowing the mechanisms that lead to mast cell activation is crucial and will lead to novel therapies for these patients, he goes on. Mast cells release many more compounds and mediators than just histamine. So if you can block the activation of these cells, I believe you have a much more efficient therapy. Now the question is, could this be something that would be helpful even in situations like colon cancer? Or could this be the same pathway that may be a causative factor of colon cancer? I don't know the answer to that. Now, you're looking for a naturopathic approach? I give you that list again. Gluten, wheat, soy, and cow's milk. Get them out of your diet. We add a nice, well-rounded maxi enzymes before every meal. And we use GI Complete to calm the situation. We use it twice a day for 30 days, calm the whole GI system, and then come in on the back tier with a soil-based probiotic that will recolonize the colon and start the healing process going. You have IBS? Take this to heart. You can look this up. If you go to Science Daily, you can actually find this report. As I said, it came out yesterday. As far as blocking histamine, there's a great prep by a company called Designs for Health called HistaEase. If you're one of those that are suffering and you can't quite figure out the food thing, maybe a place to start. Adding that in together with the probiotic may be very, very helpful. So if you need help, give us a call at the office, 678-228-8900, 678-228-8900. Teachers, this is a call out to you. I'm considering you frontline. We are offering free advice to you. Just call the office and set up a time, 678-228-8900. Website is thenutritionshop.net, THE, thenutritionshop, SHOPPE.net. Give us a call, check us out on the web, and check back here tomorrow. We'll have more great information as always. Take care. God bless.